we don't understand where all these refugees are coming from. Oh my God, where are all these refugees coming from? Who's funding them coming over into these borders? Well, this is what you get when you keep supporting these nonstop wars, when you keep bombing where these people live. You said this one thing. No, the broader conversation that we are having.
Candace, it's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip, and I'm trying to answer it. You know, you can't do that. You asked a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it.
And I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it is what the issue is. I brought my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay.
I would. I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Piers. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I take that consequence any day.
Oh boy, you're gonna want to strap in for this one, folks, because Candace Owens just stepped onto Piers Morgan's set like it was her courtroom. And let's just say, Piers didn't bring a lawyer. What starts as a debate ends up looking like a live autopsy of Western foreign policy, with Candace holding the scalpel and Piers trying to explain away the blood. From exposing Israel's funding of Hamas to calling out the US military being pimped out like a cannon fodder for Tel Aviv's wish list. This isn't a discussion, it is a geopolitical exorcism. And if you think this is just another political spat, think again. Candace goes nuclear on hypocrisy, foreign wars, and the elites treating young soldiers like disposable toy soldiers. This is the kind of clip they don't want going viral, so stay till the end, because once Candace starts connecting the dots, it's game over for the gatekeepers. Let's go.
It is indisputable that Israel moved out of Gaza in 2005, and there was an election, and Hamas got elected. Right now,
yeah,
I agree with you.
But Bibi Netanyahu was on camera saying that they were going to fund Hamas into power. So they orchestrated that because if they wanted to create the solution.
I agree with you that Netanyahu wanted to cause a split between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. It was divide and rule. It was a catastrophically bad strategy, and it led to what happened on October the 7th over a 20-year period. There's no doubt it was a terrible thing that Netanyahu did, one of the many reasons I think he should go. But there was no doubt that the Israelis pulled out of Gaza and allowed them to have elections, and they elected Hamas, and the rest has been disastrous history.
Because the Israelis funded, because Bibi Netanyahu, they funded Hamas into power.
I don't disagree with you, but they still had elections.
So it's like we rigged an election, but look what the election results show is that they wanted to put Hamas into power. And so when we talk about who is funding these terrorists, the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. And I don't want to get into his corruption trials, but every single person watching this right now should go pursue the documentary, The Bibi Files, because it is absolutely stunning to understand.
I believe one of the reasons. I believe one of the reasons. Let me answer
the question, because you still haven't given me anything other than like you guys get a pat on the back for supporting this created nation in the Middle East. I also just like to say all of the bad things that we have gotten because of our continued relation with Israel. First and foremost, the open borders, and you can relate to this. People in the UK, they just can't seem to connect the dots.
All right.
Oh my gosh, what's happening here?
Let me get a word in.
But I want to say this. Okay, we don't understand where all these refugees are coming from. Oh my God, where are all these refugees coming from? Who's funding them coming over into these borders? Well, this is what you get when you keep supporting these nonstop wars, when you keep bombing where these people live. And it's not even just a conspiracy, by the way. If you're like, oh, well
actually, you're wrong about this, because the vast majority of people coming into the UK illegally are not coming from war-torn countries in the Middle East. They're actually economic migrants. So that's not true.
Okay, but let's connect that. Let's connect that. When you say economic migrants, are we talking about like
people who literally want to come to the UK for a better life?
And when Gaddafi was heading up Libya and the country was on the up and up, and he was working with the United Nations, and then all of a sudden he warned that if you collapse Libya and turn it into a place where refugees are escaping, that this is going to be your problem, Europe. He warned that. So then it actually happened, and now we're just calling them economic migrants. We're going to pretend that we had nothing to do.
People coming from Libya.
Okay, where are you speaking about?
Well, for example, I think it was last year, a third of all the people who came into the UK on the border on the small boats illegally, it turned out were young economic migrant males from Albania, which last time I checked, we hadn't invaded. So look, let me pull you back to something you said, which has caused a lot of controversy, which is this issue of dishonourable discharge. Let's take a listen.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever. And these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers.
When you said that, were you aware of the repercussions if people dishonorably discharged?
So just to put this into context, this is like the Q&A, live Q&A portion at the end of my show. And being facetious, but also being completely honest, that they should begin to consider, and that was somebody asking, what should we do? Like, should we leave the military? Because they also
do you regret
are
saying
recognizing that? No, I don't regret saying that. I don't
But
regret
you know the
having
repercussions if you
people
do
actually think
discharge dishonorably.
Okay, well, I would imagine that the people that are in the military who were going to, if they were going to listen to my podcast and they were going to dishonorably discharge, that they would know the consequences. So it's completely ridiculous. And again, we see this over and over again where people can't answer the broader questions. They try to suddenly peg in, well, you said this one thing. No, the broader conversation that we are having.
Candace, it's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip, and I'm trying to answer it. You know, you can't do that. You asked a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it,
and I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it. Is what the issue is. This is exactly.
I'm just repeating what you said.
You're not. You're playing what I said, and I'm responding to it and telling you that the broader piece of that conversation, when you have troops that are now asking that question, is they are recognizing that America is in steep decline, that our military comes back and they are treated like dirt, that a lot of these men, and we're talking about decades, white American males come back and they're told that they're racist and they're treated like crap, that they're white supremacists, if they have a different vision for this country. So why are they dying in these overseas wars for Bibi Netanyahu? Okay, and let me again try to answer that question that I asked you at the beginning, which is, what has Zionism won America?
I'm not going
what
to keep coming back to the same thing.
No, let me finish. Why won't you let me answer that? Why won't you let me actually say what people are recognizing? You come back and there are open borders and you're told that you are racist, okay? You come back and you're told that you are racist if you don't want open borders. Meanwhile, you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. It's a nonsense. And who's funding these open borders? According to Barry Weiss, and I quote, Barry Weiss said this verbatim, the Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we are very proud of. And she was referencing the organization HIAS, and she says it explicitly, which she said what was started by them in the 1880s, which includes immigrants that have come in like Sergey Brin. They are still the organization that is operating at our border right now, okay? That is problematic, that we have open borders while we continually and routinely are told that we have to defend somebody else's borders, okay? And again, these never-ending wars in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu was the one that called for Americans to invade Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and now Iran, and we've done it. We're told Israel can defend itself, okay, but why do we have currently 2,000 troops that are in Syria under the guise of fighting ISIS? And like I said, we know Israel themselves fund terror-adjacent militants like they did to overthrow Assad. And we're done with the BS of, okay, well, they weren't really involved, Israel, in Afghanistan, because even when we fight those never-ending wars, Israel wins. Everybody knows that our boys were out there in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, okay? And do you know what happened after we allegedly, quote unquote, lost in Afghanistan? What happened to all those poppy fields, those poppy flowers that our military was guarding? Well, the opioid crisis hit America via the Sackler family, who quite literally built the School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. So we're just done, okay? And there's no way that we're gonna go backwards. We're not going to allow you guys to emotionally condition us to go, oh, well, we gotta protect Israel because of the Holocaust. It is over. They're imparting a Holocaust. America would like off this crazy train.
Okay, for the benefit of viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 19, dishonourable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement, which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay,
I would. I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Piers. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I'd take that consequence any day to them being sent back over in a coffin because they died for Israel. So.
Okay, but I think the one thing you're missing, look, I come from a big military family, a lot of military in my family, and a lot of people fighting wars on behalf of the United States are not doing it because they think Bibi Netanyahu wants them to. They're doing it because
Some of them do that, and they write into my show and I answer the question.
But many of them won't, and they might be offended by you suggesting that's the only reason they're doing it.
And they can watch your show, and they can be offended all they want, but I think it's more offensive the way that our military is treated, the veterans are treated, and the gaslighting that takes place when we're told that we have to defend everybody's borders. But
I actually think America treats its veterans better than almost any country in the world.
I mean, this has always been an open conversation, and I'm just saying that if my boys were being drafted to fight this war in Iran, I would be like, you know what, honey, take the other option. And that's not because it's cowardice. It's because when you sign up for the military.
Okay, but I would say that the pilots,
you are
so
pledging
far,
that you are doing something that is going to better your country.
Candace, so
and
far,
like I said, our country has been in steep decline since we have been part of this foreign policy, which is just whatever Israel wants.
Okay, but you made that point. But what I would say to you is the only people so far that have been involved from the American military were the extraordinarily courageous and skillful pilots who flew these B-2 bombers and attacked the nuclear sites and got back safely. So there's been no troops on the ground committed at all, no declaration of war by the United States. We can quibble. Listen, I don't disagree with you. You bomb somewhere, you probably are at war with them. But there is no official declaration of war, just as Trump, when he took out Soleimani and Baghdadi and he attacked Syria and so on, he didn't declare war on those places. And actually it turned out that the apocalyptic warnings of those actions never materialized. So we shall see.
And just like that, Piers Morgan got reduced to background noise on his own show. Man looked like he was buffering in real time, grasping for talking points while Candace was out here connecting CIA coups, Israeli war profits, and Big Pharma like it was TED Talk from hell. Let's be honest though, Piers spent half the debate clutching outdated scripts from 2003 and the other half pretending like America bombs countries out of love. Meanwhile, Candace dragged the receipts, named names, and reminded everyone that US troops have died guarding poppy fields just so the Sackler family could control Tel Aviv med schools. You can't make this stuff up. He wanted to talk about honor and discharge. She gave him the full audit. Piers tried to moralize, and Candace lit the moral compass on fire and mailed the ashes to Bibi. So here's the deal. If you think it's anti-Semitic to point out that Israel has influence over US foreign policy, you're not ready for this conversation. And if you think it's patriotic to die for lobbyists and pipelines, you're the one who's being dishonorably misled. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all, and I hope to catch you on the next one.